Before the story begins, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know. What time do you usually watch videos? And don't forget to suggest the next story or content you'd like to see. Story 1. The reflection that wasn't mine. I woke up on a Sunday morning with a pounding headache, the kind that makes you feel like your skull is too tight for your brain. I'd been at a small get-together the night before. Just a few friends, some cheap wine, and too many stories about the creepy old house one of them had just moved into. I'd gone to bed in my tiny apartment, alone, same as always. The first thing that felt wrong was the bed. The sheets were heavier, the mattress firmer, the pillow smelled faintly of cigarettes. My eyes flew open, expecting to see my cluttered bedroom, but I didn't recognize a single thing. The walls were bare, painted an ugly yellow. The window had heavy brown curtains. There was a desk with an ashtray overflowing with cigarette butts. My phone, which I always left on the nightstand, was gone. I sat up quickly, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. That's when I realized my hands didn't look right. They were bigger, knuckly, with calluses on the palms. My nails were short and square. I told myself it was a dream, that my brain was still foggy. I needed a mirror. The bathroom door was cracked open. I stepped inside and flicked on the light. That's when I froze. The face in the mirror wasn't mine. I was staring at a man in his late 50s, maybe early 60s. His skin was weathered, with deep lines around his mouth. He had short, graying hair and a heavy jaw. His eyes were pale blue, bloodshot. He wore an expression halfway between confusion and recognition. I reached up, touched my cheek. The man in the mirror did the same. I backed away so fast I slammed into the wall. My pulse felt like it was trying to break out of my chest. "This isn't real," I whispered, but the voice that came out was deeper, raspier. I grabbed the sink, leaned in, searching for something. A glitch, a blur, anything that would prove this wasn't happening. But the man in the mirror just stared back at me, breathing heavily. I don't know how long I stood there before a noise snapped me out of it. A buzzing sound from the bedroom. I rushed back in and found an old flip phone vibrating on the desk. The name on the screen read, Paul Work. I hesitated, then flipped it open. "Where the hell are you?" A man's voice barked. "We've got to be at the site in 30 minutes. Don't make me come drag you out again." I had no idea what to say. I'm not feeling well." "Not feeling well? You think I care? Get your ass here." He hung up. I stood there shaking, the phone still in my hand. I didn't know this voice, didn't know this room, didn't know this body. But apparently, someone out there thought I was whoever this man was. I needed answers. I searched the room, found a wallet on the desk. The ID read Martin Cole, age 59. I'd never heard the name before. There was $22 in cash, a crumpled grocery receipt, and a faded photo of a woman and a little girl. I put the wallet down, grabbed the curtains, and yanked them open. The view was wrong. Completely wrong. This wasn't my neighborhood. This was a rundown street lined with boarded-up houses, a half-collapsed gas station on the corner. Panic clawed at my throat. I needed to get out. I shoved my feet into a pair of boots by the bed, threw on the jacket hanging from the chair, and stumbled down the stairs. The air outside was cold, biting. A few people stood smoking on the sidewalk, and one of them called out, "Morning, Marty." I didn't answer. I walked fast, head down, not sure where I was going, until I spotted a convenience store. I pushed the door open and went straight for the bathroom. Locked. I knocked, waited, and when someone finally came out, I went in and shut the door behind me. There was another mirror. Still him. Still the same pale blue eyes, the weathered skin, the stranger's face. I gripped the edge of the sink so hard my knuckles turned white. "Wake up," I told myself. "Wake up, wake up, wake up!" The door rattled. "Hey, hurry up in there!" I splashed cold water on my face, but it did nothing. I left the store and started walking again, my mind racing. That's when I saw it, my reflection in the glass of a parked car. For a split second, it wasn't the old man. It was me, my real face. Brown hair, tired eyes, the faint scar on my eyebrow. But as soon as I blinked, it was gone. By midday, I was exhausted. I found a bench in a small park and sat there, trying to figure out if I was losing my mind. I took out Martin's phone, scrolled through his contacts. Most were just first names. Then I found one labeled home. I called it. A woman answered. "Marty? Is everything okay?" My throat tightened. I don't think so." "Where are you? Did you talk to Paul? You can't just disappear like this." I swallowed hard. I'm not sure how to explain this, but I'm not. The line went dead. By the time the sun started setting, I was desperate. I went back to the apartment, hoping maybe somehow things would reset if I just went to sleep. The mirror still showed Martin. My hands were still his. I lay down, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of traffic. When I opened my eyes again, light was streaming in through my own bedroom window, my own walls, my own bed. I shot up and scrambled to the bathroom. My face was back. My hair, my eyes, my skin. It was me. For a moment, I thought it was over. Until I noticed something on the bathroom counter. A photograph. It was the same faded picture from Martin Cole's wallet, the woman and little girl. Except this time, the man standing beside them was me. Story 2. My sister's life. I woke up in a bed that wasn't mine. At first, I thought I was dreaming. My eyes opening to pale pink walls, a ceiling fan spinning lazily above me, and the faint scent of vanilla. The sheets under my hands weren't the deep navy cotton I always used, but frilly white ones with tiny embroidered flowers. It took about 30 seconds before I noticed the photographs on the wall. They were of my sister, Chloe. Chloe smiling at the beach. Chloe with her friends. Chloe in her cheer uniform. There wasn't a single picture of me. I pushed the covers back and froze. My legs looked different, smaller. My toenails were painted pale blue, Chloe's favorite color. My heart hammered as I swung them off the bed and caught sight of the mirror across the room. It was Chloe's face staring back at me. Panic clawed up my throat. I scrambled to the mirror, touching my cheeks, my hair, her hair. Blonde, long, wavy. The reflection moved with me, but it wasn't mine. I should have been looking at dark brown hair, a rounder face, glasses, but I wasn't. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand. It wasn't mine either, a pink case with glitter. When I pressed the side button, the lock screen lit up, her face again, but smiling with a boy I didn't know. The date read, today. No explanation. I stumbled out into the hallway. Mom was in the kitchen, flipping pancakes. She looked up and smiled like everything was normal. Morning, Chloe, she said. Mom, it's me. I stopped. My voice wasn't mine either. Higher, lighter. Are you okay? She asked, brow furrowing. I wanted to scream. Instead, I just nodded because what was I supposed to say? Hey, Mom, I woke up in my sister's body and I don't know where mine is. I sat at the table. The pancakes looked the same as always, but my appetite was gone. My hands, Chloe's hands, trembled as I reached for the syrup. Big day today, huh? Mom said. You've been nervous all week. I swallowed hard. Remind me? She gave me a look like I was joking. The interview for the scholarship? You've been practicing answers for days. I blinked. I didn't know Chloe had been applying for scholarships. I didn't know half of what she did anymore, if I was being honest. We used to be close when we were younger, but high school had split us into separate worlds. After breakfast, Mom drove me to the downtown library, where a stern-looking woman with a clipboard led me into a quiet room. She started asking questions about my future plans, my extracurriculars, my deep passion for community service. I had no idea what to say. I mumbled things that probably didn't make sense. The woman's frown deepened with each answer. By the time I got back home, my stomach was in knots. I went straight to Chloe's room and shut the door. That's when I saw it, a spiral-bound notebook under the pillow. Inside, there were pages and pages of neat handwriting. At first, it seemed like a journal, but as I read, the words shifted into something darker. She wrote about feeling invisible, about how she thought I had always been the favorite, even though I never saw it that way. She wrote about how Mom and Dad didn't really know her, how her friends only liked the version of her she pretended to be. And then I saw my name. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to be her, to have people look at me the way they look at her, to not feel like I'm just existing in someone else's shadow. I felt cold all over. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Dad came home from work and asked me about school. I answered vaguely. I kept staring at my hands, wondering how this happened, wondering where I was right now. That night, I dreamed I was floating in the dark. I couldn't see my body, but I felt weightless, like I didn't belong anywhere. When I woke up the next morning, I was back in my own bed, my own legs, my own face in the mirror. Relief hit me so hard I almost cried. I ran to check on Chloe, but she was gone. Mom said she had left early for school. I found her later that afternoon, sitting on the back porch, staring into the distance. Hey, I said quietly. She glanced at me, her expression unreadable. Hey, we sat in silence for a while. I read your notebook, I admitted finally. Her shoulders stiffened. You shouldn't have. I know, I'm sorry, but I think I understand now. I didn't before, but I do now. She looked at me then, her eyes sharper than I'd ever seen. For a second, I swore she was about to ask me something she knew I couldn't explain. Instead, she just stood up and went inside without another word. We've never talked about that day. But sometimes, when I catch her looking at me, I can't shake the feeling that she remembers it too, that she knows exactly what happened, and that maybe it wasn't an accident. Story 3, The Child in the Hospital. I was 8 years old when I first met her. Her name was Emily, or at least that's what she told me. She was small, pale, with wispy brown hair that always seemed slightly damp, like she'd just come in from the rain. I was in the hospital because of a broken leg after falling from my bike. It was supposed to be an overnight stay for observation, but my parents had to leave late in the evening. The room felt huge, with shadows pooling in the corners, and the hum of the fluorescent lights made the silence even heavier. That's when Emily appeared. She was standing by the foot of my bed, holding a small stuffed rabbit. Her hospital gown was thin and frayed at the cuffs, and her bare feet made no sound on the linoleum. She smiled faintly, but her eyes, they seemed far too tired for a child. Hi, she whispered. Do you want to play? At first, I thought she might be another patient from a nearby room. I told her my leg hurt too much to move, so she suggested we play by telling stories instead. She sat in the chair beside me, swinging her feet slowly, and told me about the hidden floor of the hospital, the one that no adults talked about. She said it was only for children who had been here for a long, long time. Her voice was quiet but steady. She described endless hallways with dim yellow lights, and rooms where the windows showed nothing but darkness. She said the nurses there didn't walk, they floated, and the doctors never spoke. I laughed nervously, assuming she was trying to scare me. When I asked where her room was, she tilted her head. I don't have one anymore. She stayed until I dozed off. In the morning, I asked the nurse about her. The nurse looked confused. No one had visited me overnight except the staff. I described Emily in detail. The nurse's face tightened, and she quickly changed the subject. That night, Emily came back. I was both relieved and uneasy. This time, she wanted to show me the way to the hidden floor. She said it was through the elevator, but you had to press the buttons in a special sequence. 4, 2, basement, then 3. And when the doors opened, you'd step into a place where time didn't matter. I laughed again, but there was something in her tone that made my stomach knot. She leaned in close and whispered, "It's better there. No more shots, no more pain, just quiet." I told her I didn't want to go anywhere. Her expression didn't change, but she nodded. "Maybe later. You'll change your mind." On my third night, I woke up to find her standing at the side of my bed, holding my hand. Her fingers were ice cold. I hadn't even heard her come in. She looked more tired than before, like the shadows under her eyes were bruises. "They'll come for you soon," she said softly. "Don't be afraid. I'll be there." The next morning, the nurse told me I was being discharged early. My parents arrived, and I didn't see Emily again. Years passed. I'd almost convinced myself she was just a strange dream from being scared and alone. Then, when I was 23, my younger cousin was hospitalized for appendicitis in the same building. I went to visit him. Walking down the pediatric wing, I glanced into one of the rooms and froze. Sitting in a chair beside a sleeping boy was Emily, unchanged. The same hair, the same pale face, the same stuffed rabbit. She turned her head and looked at me, recognition lighting up her eyes. "You came back," she mouthed silently. I didn't move. A nurse passed by, and when I looked again, the chair was empty. I asked about her later, casually describing her appearance. The nurse's reaction was eerily familiar, a quick, tight expression, then a change of subject. Finally, an older orderly pulled me aside. "You shouldn't talk about her," he said. "She's been here longer than anyone can remember, always visiting the new kids. Some of them leave with their parents. Some don't leave at all." I still visit my cousin in the hospital sometimes, and every time I pass that hallway, I keep my eyes forward, resisting the urge to glance inside. Because I know, if I see her again, Emily will be smiling, and she'll be waiting for me to say yes. Story 4, A Stranger's Final Day. It was early on a gray Tuesday morning when I first noticed him. I was sitting at my usual table in the corner of the coffee shop, nursing a bitter black coffee and scrolling through emails I didn't want to read. The stranger was by the window, his hands wrapped around a chipped mug he didn't seem to be drinking from. He had an unkempt beard, a wrinkled coat, and a face that was strangely familiar, though I was certain I had never met him before. He kept glancing at the clock on the wall. Not just glancing, staring, as if every tick of the second hand meant something urgent. I thought maybe he was waiting for someone. When the barista walked past, he caught her arm and asked what time the sun would set. She laughed politely, told him a little after 6, and went back to the counter. His eyes didn't leave the clock. After about 20 minutes, he stood, put a few crumpled bills on the table, and left. I didn't think much of it until I walked home later that evening and saw him again, standing perfectly still on the corner outside my apartment building. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking up, as if counting the floors. I hesitated before going inside, but when I turned to look back, he was gone. The next morning, he was at the coffee shop again. Same table by the window. Same untouched mug. Same fixation on the clock. This time when he caught me watching, he smiled faintly. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the kind you give someone when you know a secret about them. "Morning," he said. His voice was rough, but quiet. I nodded, unsure what else to do. "You live on the 6th floor," he added matter-of-factly, "the one with the green curtains." I felt a jolt of unease. "How do you know that?" He just shrugged and looked back at the clock. "I'm leaving today," he said. "Not by choice. Thought you should know." Before I could ask what he meant, he stood and walked out. That night, I had trouble sleeping. I kept thinking about his words. Not by choice. Around 2 a.m., I heard faint knocking from the hallway outside my apartment. When I peeked through the peephole, I saw nothing. But the air felt heavy, like the moments before a storm. The following morning, I decided to skip the coffee shop. Still, as I passed by on my way to work, I couldn't help but glance inside. His table was empty. That evening, the news broke. A man had been struck and killed by a train just after sunset. The description matched him perfectly, mid-40s, unshaven, wearing a wrinkled coat. They said he hadn't jumped. He'd simply been standing too close to the edge when he fell. No identification was found on him. I told myself it was a coincidence. People like him drift through the city all the time. But that night, just after midnight, I woke to the sound of soft tapping on my window. 6th floor. No balcony, no ledge, just the glass. When I looked, he was there, standing outside in the cold darkness, his face pale, eyes locked on mine. His mouth moved, but there was no sound. I didn't need to hear the words to understand. It was the same thing he'd told me before. "I'm leaving today." Only this time, I realized he wasn't talking about himself. Maybe these stories were nothing more than strange coincidences, dreams too vivid to forget, or tricks of the mind. But for the people who lived them, those single days felt real, down to every heartbeat, every breath, every thought in a body that wasn't theirs. And it makes you wonder, if it happened to you, would you even want to wake up as yourself again?